Hey there, guys. Jacob back, sorting into a brand new humble abode, and I'm here to review another book that's recently been constantly catching my attention, and I'm going back to it and reading and reading. It's like one of those things. The first read, you're like, okay, this is interesting. The second read, you're like, oh, this is brilliant. The third read, you just get so sucked into it. Each and every read, I find more and more inside of this volume. Of course, the book I'm talking about, if you can't guess by the title above, is Bairn by Dyne, or Kennedy, as we know him. And luckily, when he was here, I actually bought this copy off of him because I was way overdue. Got it signed on the front, which I love all of my books to be signed if I can help it. So, why this book? I mean, first off, it is a hefty price tag at $97. Let me explain to you why I found this price tag worth it. First off, now on the front, it claims 41 mental effects with attitude problems, and that is really an understatement. There is 41 effects in here, and it's absolutely unreal how much material and how much of a mixed bag is actually in this book. The cover work is absolutely phenomenal in here too. The design throughout the books, you can see it's just, absolutely stunning. Phil Smith did a really great job working with Kennedy designing this thing. And it really is a labor of love. And if you know Ken at all, he's really passionate about the material in this book. So one of the main things that I learned from reading this, as well as just hanging out and getting to know Ken a little better, was his main kind of quip with mentalism is, one, it's moving into kind of a fictional era where almost some of this stuff that's coming out are half-baked ideas that have been tested once or twice, and they're thrown out there, and they just don't work in the real world. I could say all of this is stuff that will work in the real world. Not all of it fits my personality and what I go for, but a good chunk of this does. So let me go through and talk about a few of my favorite things out of here. I mean, this is going to be, I don't know if I might go over 10 minutes talking about this. I'm going to try and keep within 10 minutes, so I'm sorry if I do. First thing that really the book opens up here with Mr. Golden Balls. And for those of you who have not seen the Penguin lecture, Mr. Golden Balls is absolutely superb. It's like Karasuke with an actual inventive plot twist, an actual inventive presentation, which is all provided in here. And then on top of that, there's a surprise element to the end. It's really, when you play it like Ken does, it's a full theatrical experience. I got to see Ken do his actual, a chunk of his actual corporate set he's doing right now, complete with the ending he uses for his shows, when he was here in the States, because he did a performance. And my goodness, I mean, it's just fantastic. It's amazing to see, you don't really know what to shoot for as a performer structuring an act until you've seen a performance like that, an actual one done. And that's something I realized I need to go out and do now, see more of these performances like this. So it was fantastic to see, and Mr. Golden Balls was one of the routines he did. And for real people, this Golden Balls plays like no other. And if you go online, the method in the book actually calls for a certain little magnetic something, but if you go online, his new updates too, as well as on the Penguin lecture, he talks about there's methods without that now, and it's actually the method he's got is superb, and you can actually choose exactly who it is that's going to be Mr. Golden Balls, which I think is excellent. Now, moving right along, right after that, one of the ones that caught my eye definitely was Bookended, and it really shows Ken's kind of idea for how he structures things, and how he progressively builds an actual theatrical experience in a show versus just doing a string of tricks like we see so many people do. I don't think that I used to think I want to do a string of tricks, but it's just not. You're not going to separate yourself out in a market or in your show by doing a string of tricks. You have to have some kind of bookending to it, and that's what he kind of explains and does in this routine called Bookended. It's really great. I don't want to give too much away, but let's just say that it has some brilliant work on the padlock in there, on the old padlock routines. As well, he talks about using a certain kind of lock in there, the dream lock. I personally am trying to get a hold of one of the Abyss locks that Patrick Redford made popular recently in his Penguin Live lecture, as well as on Glim. So if you want some really great work on locks that goes with Bookended, get Glim by Patrick Redford as well. He has some great work on there. It's actually quoted in the book as well, as for being amazing with it. But bookended is superb. I don't want to give too much away because it's fantastic, and the structuring is really brilliant. It'll make your mind kind of go, huh. So this is how I do this to make something come full circle. Now, next one that kind of caught my eye, once again, the same kind of idea of the surprise, which is really what he's preaching in this, is that mentalism today is so linear. With adding surprise elements to it, there's so much more possibility in there. Another example, Theo and Cassidy walk into a bar in Ostin. Basically, what you have here is the name and place redone to make it 1, more impressive, 2, surprising, and 3, really there's no change in the work per se. And all this can happen in the hands of somebody else. It takes this effect, it's normally so cerebral, but it puts it inside of the hands of other people for the ending of it. And once again, it's an excellent bookend. You could open your show with name and place, or you could do a chunk in your show of name and place, and then do a callback later on where you have the revelation that actually is Theo and Cassidy walk into a bar in Ostin. The actual idea from the book itself, which I think is great. Magazine Test of the Stars, you saw the Penguin lecture, you know how well this flies. Personally, I'm developing a version of it right now to span it out a little bit more and make it an equivocal handling, and I'm adding some interaction elements in there, but I'm definitely using just the concept alone of Magazine Test of the Stars, and the presentational premise of it I think is just fantastic, and it works really, really well. And I think even if you were to combine it with other magazine elements such as the Rister Osterland ideas, you could have a full set just using a bunch of magazines that basically you either borrow or bring in from the audience, or you borrow from the audience. So Who's Got the Money is one that really caught my eye, because in here Ken really talks about, he hates the idea of psychological this and that, but the thing is, this is a psychological type of effect. But it's the writing of it and the method of it is absolutely hilarious. And when Phil Smith was here, we were talking about it and how funny it was. The method's just friggin' cleverly hilarious. It's that kind of like prevaricator you see Patrick Redford do, but it's not prevaricator. It's something different and something kind of insanely, innately interesting. And his way of adding a serial divination on the end of it is just fantastic how he goes about it. E1, once again, you saw the lecture. You don't need much explanation. It's the predictogram. It's friggin' phenomenal. I understood one section of it in the lecture when I was watching it, and the rest of it just blew my mind open, especially when the guy confirmed that all of the words were clearly visible. I had no idea. Absolutely fantastic. Sensible influence is, I think, an overlooked thing in this book. I think most people look at it and not see any real potential, but I think sensible influence is brilliant. Basically what you do is, let's imagine I've got a glass here. Let's imagine we pour this guy full of water, and it can be water from, someone drinking water out in the audience and say, hey, pour that. And you bring it underneath one person's nose. In a flip chart, you flip it and it says Coca-Cola. They smell and they describe what liquid is contained inside the glass, and they say, oh, it's Coke. Okay. Next, you move to the next person, give them a smell. You flip the flip chart and say, now, Bossy, what does that one taste like? And they say beer, for example. And it's all one glass being passed down the group, and they all describe different drinks of smelling it when it's clearly just a glass of borrowed water. I think that's a beautiful effect. There's no dual reality in it, no fishy stuff. All the people on stage will confirm the same thing as the people out there. Bearing in mind their eyes are closed in this, they're not looking at a glass of water going, okay, that's Dr. Pepper, but that's clearly water. They're not doing that. That's stupid. But it's beautiful routine. I really want to use that one in my own work. Now, another one of the overlooked things, I think, in the book that most people would pass over is the seance, which, for those of you who don't know, Ken actually did quite a bit of work with seance work. And I'd love to hear his thoughts on seance work, because he seems like such a different character, and like his character would be so interesting in a seance environment. So, Ken, I know you're watching this, bud, I'd love to hear more about your seance work. So I've read some of the other stuff as well, and things like your Impromptu Mystifier, you talk about an interesting seance effect you used. Now, we are hitting about the 10-minute mark. I'm going to go a little over here because, once again, this is just something I really love this. It gets better with every read. It does, and I refer to this constantly. This is like my little handbook I carry around lately. This and the Phil Smith books are kind of my go-to reference. Oh man, so I'm designing a corporate show. What do I need to have in it? What do I need to have premise-wise? Blah, 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 blah. How can I make it digestible? How can I be clever with my creation of methodologies and stringing them together? This book gives you inspiration to that. There's sections on here. I love it. There's actually The section titles are hilarious too. Tossed Out Death, which I think is funny. You know, he's got sections on crowd control on here, an essay on that. Well, not crowd control, that's an effect itself. It's actually really good. Sorry about that, I actually misread that there. No, crowd control is an effect in here I almost overlooked. Really, really nice. So, basically it's like, I don't want to give it away, it's freaking phenomenal. So it has sections on here on starting strong, on, you know, there's so much, there's random stuff here at the back. It's kind of like fresh out of the notebooks. There's a book test in here that I think is really, really clever, and it's impromptu. There's a newspaper prediction that I think is great that him and Colin McLeod worked on. They talk about in that, and how he talks about how he's used it in the past. I don't know, I'm trying to figure out where it went to, but there's also a section on here called creating a let me see if I can go to the table of contents and find it real quick. Apologies. An act versus string of tricks I was talking about earlier. Talks about what his thoughts are on that and how to really make things string along and happen in such a way that it's just so much more effective in your performances. Now really, I'll be honest with you. So first off, what kind of customer is looking for this? $97 is a hefty price tag. I know that's a big investment, but this is going to be a modern classic, I believe. You know, if you were somebody that read Dyne and thought this is fantastic, then you're going to like this. If you're somebody that read Dyne and thought this was terrible, I wish there was more theory on, you know, performing and construction of act, you're going to love this. This has a lot of theory built into it. The voice, Kennedy's voice of authorship is what I truly love more than anything on this. And it's seen throughout his work, kind of, but this really amps it up. Because I've read a few of his other things. You know, I have Primal Prediction. I've used it in my shows. Prompt to Mystifier I obviously really loved, and I talked about that briefly, and I revived a thread on it a while back because I bought it before it went off the market, and I think he's going to bring it back here soon, so get that when it comes out. The voice in it is just hilarious. I mean, it's literally just, if you're a gospel magician or mentalist, you might not enjoy the voice of this book. I mean, it's pretty raunchy, but that's what makes it great, and that's what makes Ken so different and so amazing. I really loved reading this. There's a nice mixture of stage, close-up, you know, from the notebooks, essays. It's really kind of everything you could want in a mentalism text for somebody that's looking to actually go out and do work. I mean, like I said, Ken even wrote in his, when he signed my book, it says, "Jacob, welcome to the workable. All the best." And that's exactly what it is. That quote he signed on the front of my book kind of sums it up in a nutshell. If you're somebody that's looking for workable real-world material, not pipe dreams, not this and that, not, well, you know, I've never done this before. Ken will if Ken's never done something, he will tell you in the book. I think there's one or two instances where he said, I've only done this 3 or 4 times. Only like 1 or 2, and it's none of the major routines I discussed earlier. It's more like, you know, random ideas from the back on, you know, add a number and stuff, because he's very passionate about add a number. He's got a great add number I've heard coming out here soon he's telling me about, as well as he hints at his passed out deck, which is in his section where he talks about tossed out deck effects and tossed out effects. He really goes into, he kind of briefly hints at his passed out deck that's coming out, which I saw a chunk of it briefly when we were sitting in the hotel when he was here. He showed me a brief chunk of it. I have no idea. Other performers, you know, that have seen it say, I have no idea how it works too. And he was a little monkey and decided to hold it over my head. I didn't get to see it, so I don't know how it works. It's brilliant. But all in all, apologies because my energy's a little down right now. I've been tired of moving all day. This couch is freshly in my apartment. But go on to Mental Underground and support Ken. Ken is a great guy. He has a great passion for helping our community. And that's one of the reasons why I picked this up and why I, you know, contacted him and, you know, been following him for so many years. Anybody that knows Ken well knows he's everything he claims to be and more. He's actually pretty humble for such a spiky-haired little shit. But all in all, Bairn by Ken Dyne. Go pick it up. Go to mentalunderground.com. Buy it direct from from the man himself and support your creators. Thank you all, and have a blessed day.